All right, thank you. If anybody needs a break, stand up for a second, because if you're like me, as a matter of fact, stand up for a second. Everybody stand up for a second. And also the other thing is, I warned Nicoletta before she invited me here, are you sure you want me to attend? She said, absolutely. So after this is done, blame Nicoletta. I warned her. Sit back down, don't pull out your phones, don't look at your laptops, and do not look at your iPads, because it bothers me deeply. I'm American. We have a fragile ego. If you don't pay attention to me, I start to get a little worried, right? So, who am I? That's what we're going to talk about. You can read it in the pamphlet. That's who I am. So, why am I here? I'm here because I got lucky enough to spend time on two very disruptive companies, right? I spent a lot of time at Riot Games, which made a product called League of Legends. To Anthula's point that I thought was well said, we found a way to take a game and turn it into a service. And meanwhile, halfway across the globe, there was another company started in Minsk, Belarus, by the Kisley family called Wargaming, and they were able to do the same thing. Take a game and turn it into a service. Actually, one of the first two pioneers on planet Earth to do this thing. So I consider myself lucky having been able to spend time on both of those to see those things. And taking the theme off of what you said around Amazon, my head of recruiting at Riot was from Amazon. She helped Bezos build Amazon in the early days. So I can confirm what you said is a very true part of Amazon culture. With that being said, we heard about discipline, and I think that's also a very important point to be made, is how important discipline is to how we look at innovation. But we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about technology, and actually I think that's a waste of time. Because technology is just a tool. You all have technology. In a matter of fact, you all have access to technology. And that means that technology is no longer a differentiator. It's not like gold, or more importantly, iron or steel. If I have a lot of iron and you don't have iron, I can be in an advantage. Today, technology is no longer an advantage. We have the same computers, we have the same technology. Our actually only true competitive advantage that's sustainable is people. See, when you create an application, when you release something to the marketplace, ultimately they're going to copy it in China anyway, right? Unless you've actually sort of thought about how to approach that marketplace strategically, which is very difficult. If you haven't done business in China or been to China, some of you have been, it's actually, to give the Chinese government credit, they've made sure that no foreign power would exploit the Chinese people except Chinese people. And that actually is a very interesting form and way of doing protectionistic business, right? That's a fact, right? So what I'm going to talk to you today about is people, not just because I have a long history in HR, but because I think that's the difference. So let's talk about people. Why do you go to work? Who are you? What excites you? I was watching today the use of these earlier when people were outside and they were taking pictures. They were looking through the windows when they were open. They were taking pictures. Why were they taking pictures? You know why, don't you? You know why they were taking pictures. Because they're going to share it later on Facebook or Instagram. They're going to tell people how cool they were. Look at where I was, right? That's called social capital. That's really important, how you generate social capital. It's how you turn a service into something really disruptive, is understanding how people work. And how these applications and how we use them change the world. How many of you in here are parents with children under the age of 15? Raise your hand, nice and tall. Boy, that's a rough life, isn't it? Yep. I hear it all the time. Trust me, I hear it. Put the phone down. Stop doing that. Get out of your room. What are you doing with all that time? What's going on? No one gave you a book, did they? They're doing that. And it's affecting their brain. In a matter of fact, when we were younger, people who didn't have technology, we spent a lot more time being social in traditional face-to-face ways than young people are. So the incoming workforce is actually really different. And I want to thank a lot of you because I've been able, through the course of my last 7 years, to steal some of the best talent from people who wear suits. No offense to you if you're wearing a suit, really, no offense at all. But banking, finance, insurance, these used to be phenomenally powerful sectors. And don't get me wrong, bankers are still very valuable and powerful in the world, but the world is changing. And people want to go work in places that feel as cool, as awesome, as important as the image of that marina. And if you don't understand that, if you don't fundamentally think that way, you're never going to compete for the best and brightest minds. You're never going to get the best people to come work for you. I've been very fortunate in that regards, because video games are cool. Video games are sexy, but they're profoundly transformative industries. When we took games as a product, something you digitally downloaded before most people downloaded anything else, and then we turned them into a service. People playing games like World of Warcraft, League of Legends, for years. It becomes a part of their identity. It becomes a part of who they are. And that's the same challenge everybody has. I thought you said it rather well when you pointed out, how do you make Godiva chocolates a part of someone's life? How does that become a service? How does that become a thing that you do every day? No longer can you just put something on a shelf and be like, right? And then bargain with the retail store to get it in the best spot in the store. That's not how you're going to transform your business, right? Because your customers are changing. Young people are going to have a large amount of disposable income, and they are not going to walk into a store. I don't go to the store, right? I don't know why people go to stores anymore, but it's a very foreign thing to me personally, right? I buy everything online, right? I compare prices between Amazon DE and Amazon UK, and whichever one is less expensive, taking the currency change rate and VAT and delivery into account, that's how I get my stuff. Why? Because it's easier. Because you know what my most valuable resource is? It's time. And that's soon going to be everybody else's most valuable resource. Time. And everything you can do to make your customer's life more efficient is where you're going to win. And my job as an entertainment industry is to make sure they have as little time to give you, their parents, their family, as anyone else. I am threatening and I am dangerous. Because when they spend time with me, they're having fun. Now, what you may not be knowing is they're learning things as well, and they're learning faster than they are in education. We teach them how to be strategic. We teach them how to be tactical. We teach them that performance matters. We punish them when they fail, right? We do all of those things in a game, right? And you know what that is? There's a whole thing that happens when they're hanging out with their friends, and they have to perform in a game like League of Legends or World of Tanks or World of Warcraft. And if they fail their team, they get immediate feedback from their team. And they love that experience, and they keep playing. That's what we do. And we're transforming young minds because of it. And that's just a fact. That's not me making it up. And not only are we doing it, every day apps are changing how they do things. So forgive this slide because it's something you can take. If you guys want this after the conference, I'll share the slide. But generations have changed, right? In traditional generations, I will sum it up like this. If you've ever put in your resume how many people reported to you or how large the organization you managed were, I would not hire you. I'm not interested in you. You don't offer me anything except two things. One, you've climbed the social ladder to a certain point, and you've created processes and structures so you can sit on that social ladder and manage a large number of people, which is fantastic if you are to borrow a Stanford term on the exploit side of the business, right? There's exploit and there's explore. And the exploit side of the business is that thing that you make very much like a machine. And someone said something really key today about, is it fair or is it right that one part of the business has to exploit while the other part gets to go do the cool, sexy explore? And is that fair? My answer, yes. It's very fair. Because you know where I put my best and brightest? How I advise CEOs? Oh, we're going to spin up a new team. Who do I put there? I don't know. Who are the very best people over there? Can we afford to lose them from that side of the business? Absolutely. Because you put so many processes. The people in charge of that have big resumes. They've managed 2,000 people. They're great at process. Keep them there. I need innovative, strong, thinking, fast, pizza-driven people who, when you're on a small team of 4 people, you don't get to leave at 4 o'clock and take your kids to school and then come back the next day at 11 o'clock because your kids got sick and then leave at 2:30 because your grandma's in town. It doesn't work that way on that side of the aisle. You're probably going to be there at 10 o'clock at night. And you want to know why? And we're going to come back to this, is because social capital is created on this side. This is where the future of your company sits. It's on the explore side of the business, where small teams focused on real customer problems, right? How do I make my customers' experience better? That's where that lives. And you want your best people who can empathize and relate to the customer solving those problems. I love the example of the protein bar because I heard something very different than the story you told. And forgive me for telling this, but I heard, and pardon me, I'm an American, it's going to take how long to do this? You got to be shitting me. I'm going to go outside the company, I'm going to get it done in 10 times faster, right? And that's the speed of innovation. You have to be able to work that quickly, right? Meanwhile, one last thing, changing the conversation. You need to start talking to people differently. You need to start engaging them in a far more inspirational way if you're going to actually make a difference in their lives. If you are a traditionalist, if you are somebody who believes in large organizations and these other things, you have to, in this moment in time, start to connect yourself to these technologies and to start experiencing the world your customers do, or please stay on that side of the business, do what you always do, wear your suit, manage your large organizations, but find really smart, innovative people who are going to dress differently, work differently, and collaborate differently to solve really high-end problems. This is a people problem. This is not people losing their job to AI. Losing jobs to AI is the best thing that could happen to us, right? Because I don't never have met a parent who has said, what do you want your son or daughter to be? Oh, I really hope they can be somebody who answers the phone for customer service. I want them to go to university and be the best customer service person in the world. None of you have that dream for your children. None of you dream for your kids that they're going to be doing anything that a robot can do. You want them to be creative. You want them to be intelligent. You want them to solve complex problems. That's what you want for your children. So don't be afraid. Empower them to be that way. Because the world is going to go that way whether we want it or not. That's not our choice anymore, right? So my advice, create good social capital inside your organizations. Why do you exist? Why do these teams exist? What do you want your company's future to be about? How will you be as a company as attractive as that photo out there, right? I gave a talk similar at the University of Nicosia, and I remember somebody stood up and said, I do grocery stores. What's sexy about grocery stores? And I said, that's an awesome question. Have you ever looked at Trader Joe's in the United States? If you ever go to the United States, there's a grocery store chain called Trader Joe's. They're a fantastic place to work. They historically get voted as one of those amazing places to work. And you walk in there, and at the end of every checkout aisle, there's a bell, and people ring bells, and there's all this excitement and stuff. And you're like, what's going on in here? When I walk in there, the experience of shopping is changed, and it's disruptive. And it's one of those places that right now isn't feeling the same pressure that other stores are feeling because they changed the experience of shopping. They thought about the customer, and they thought about the employee, and they thought about the engagement between the customer and the employee. You have to think that way, right? So don't tell me that it doesn't apply to your business because somewhere, someone else around the globe is going, I wonder if I can change the fundamental way in which we interact with our customers in the business, right? So my message to you is, this is about people, both your customer and you. And please, please, please learn the difference between explore and exploit. Have discipline in how you explore or exploit, and have discipline in how you explore, but the DNA of the people who are good at each of those is radically different. And you have to hire, retain, and recruit, and develop both people, but they have fundamentally different skills. Thank you.